Hello everybody, we're at the Complete Inbox video game store again. If you saw our video last year, we did a tour of the store. I'm not going to do a full tour this year. It's the Complete Inbox anniversary sale again tomorrow. We are giving away a $100 gift card for the store and $50 for cards next door. And we'll be doing that drawing tomorrow for anybody that's subscribed to our channel. You can come down, subscribe, and comment and like on the video and enter the drawing. The drawing will be at 6 p.m. tomorrow. And the owners of each store will draw for their gift cards. Just wanted to show you the whole store for Spenser's Complete Inbox comics expansion on this side. And then we got Blu-rays, all kinds of games over here. The whole store packed full of games. And then every system fully stocked figures and a free arcade back there. If you saw the video last year, you got the whole tour. Funko Pops, got everything in here. And we're just going to do an interview with the owner, Spenser, and ask him a few questions about starting a video game store.
All right. How you doing, YouTube land?
Question number one, what made you open Complete Inbox?
Yeah, so I always love video games. I'm going to look at the camera if that's cool.
Yes.
You're like presidential. I always loved video games. And when we opened in 2011, I used to work at game stores in Lancaster. I lived all the way out in Five Pointville, and I kind of realized that was the closest place. We had nothing in Ephrata, Denver, New Holland, anything like that. So we really, really, really needed something in Ephrata for all the people like me that had to drive so far.
Okay. Second question, what's the best and worst part of owning a video game store?
The best part is being your own boss, and the worst part is being your own boss. I'll go on that a little bit more. It's nice to not really have anyone, you know, telling you very specific things to do, like micromanaging. But at the same part, the buck stops there. Like, for instance, when I'll be late, you know, coming home, I have to tell my wife, like, oh, I'll be late because of whatever. I can't blame the boss, you know, because that's, you know, my fault for that. So I would definitely say that would be the best and worst thing.
All right, and in this day and age, do you suggest opening a game store or any storefront type?
For game store, I would say no. And I know your first instinct would be like, he doesn't want other game stores around. I don't care about that. I think it's a really bad time for game stores, not because the stuff isn't popular, it's because it's so popular that every Tom, Dick, and Harry's trying to get into it to do like eBay reselling, flipping, whatever. Stores like us, little stands down at flea markets. It's really, really highly competitive. I watched a video on YouTube about a month ago, and it was called like "Don't Open a Game Store," and it was a guy who opened a game store X number of years ago, kind of just explaining that it is really, really highly competitive. If you are familiar with our area that we live in, Ephrata, it would be the same answer if you were like, I want to open up a food joint. I would say, great. And if you were like, I want to open a pizza place, I'd be like, you shouldn't, because there is pizza everywhere here, just as an example. But if you were like, I want to open a Thai place, I'd be like, that actually sounds really smart. We don't really have that many choices out there.
Sure thing. Now, if they are going to ignore that advice, what's your best advice for someone that wants to and is going to anyway?
Yeah, I think the best way to do it is to start small. So almost like Andy does with Vintage Vultures, start out just kind of perusing the different places you can find stuff, yard sales, you know, Salvation Army, all that kind of stuff. Start slow and start building up a collection for your store. Don't just think you can jump into it right away like, I'm going to get $100,000 and put it just straight into this and, you know, we're good to go. Definitely take your time building that up. Now, we started in 2011. We started as a store straight up, but I spent about a year and a half before that kind of slowly and methodically building stuff up. So although we didn't have the like flea market experience beforehand, we definitely build it up slowly through time. And even if you compare to when we started in 2011 to now, just a huge difference, just something that you kind of build on it day by day. And I would suggest that for any business. Don't just jump in and be like, hey bank, can I get 500K for this? Like, start slow.
Sure. All right. What do you feel you have done best to be able to not only have 13 years longevity, but also be able to expand the store?
Yeah, I think it's actually both us and the community, just being part of the community. And I think the thing that we/I do best is listening to what people want. Now, you can't do everything that people want. Like, I've had 100 people tell me, open up a store in where I live, and that's not happening. But if you listen to them and take out the stuff that you hear over and over again and think, actually that sounds like a really smart idea, and you just keep working on that, I think that's the best way. Like, for instance, when we started, we only did video games, and over the course of time, I had people be like, you should do comics as well. And initially I said, no, thank you. And over the course of time, I thought, you know what, that actually makes sense. Same thing with Funko Pops. They're probably our number 2, maybe number 3 most popular thing, and I didn't want to do them at first, but I had a former employee tell me, like, I really think you should get on this. They're very popular, da-da-da. After initially saying no and thinking about it, I started out slow with it and then started building in. So we definitely still have a lot of things to improve on. That's the way you want to look at anything in life. I think that we can do, better, expand what we have, over the course of time. But if you take it a little bit slowly like that and definitely listen to your customers, that's the way to do it.
All right, great. And this is a 2-part question. Which complete in box game were you most excited to have in the store? Well, I guess it could be a 1-part, or in your personal collection, or you can answer both of those.
Yeah, so I like weird stuff, not necessarily what's expensive or rare or anything like that. So there's one that we got traded in years ago. This is like 2011, 2012. So it's an Atari 2600 game, and it's called Lockjaw, Lochgaw. And essentially what happened, the story with that's so cool, in so much that they brought out this game right around the time that Jaws, the movie, was coming out. And I think it might have been a little bit after. And they never really checked with Universal Pictures, which I think is the one who made Jaws, to be like, hey, is this cool that we call this game Lockjaw? And it ended up not being cool with them. So they printed X amount of copies, put them out into the wild, and immediately got sued. And the company that made it was like, whoa, okay, buddy. And they pulled back what they could. But some of them were already sold. And they eventually rebranded the game as Shark Attack, which makes a lot of sense. You're not going to get sued that way. So it's one of those weird ones. I don't even know the price on it or anything like that. I mean, years and years ago, it was like $200, $300, $400, something like that. It is. I don't really care so much about the price. I just care about, like, the story with that is really cool. I really love video game history. So that's one that I am 99% sure that eventually I didn't know what to do with it, so I just took it home and put it as part of my collection because I was like, I don't know what this is worth anymore. It's just one of those weird ones. But I love weird stuff with video game history.
And before I ask the next question, going on that, even if that's the worst game in the world, if there's only 20 copies of it out there and 40 people want it, with supply and demand, that's going to drive the price up on it.
Absolutely.
So it all depends on...
Absolutely. And so that actually brings me to a funny, I guess, just part with that is sometimes people will come to me and they'll be like, I have this game, it's worth like $1,000. And my first question will be, okay, to who? Like, I know a lot of people who are collectors in the video game world, but who do I call to sell an $1,000 Atari game to? It's not many. Now, of course, you could say, hey, just do it on eBay, whatever. But we try to keep it in store, to keep it hopefully local, and to someone who really wants it. So it's one of those things where, like, Mario for Super Nintendo, everyone wants it. It's Mario for Super Nintendo. But a game like that might have a certain value. You know, that you guys have probably seen the gold Nintendo World Championship cartridge. It's like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, that's great. If someone came in with it and they were like, this is worth $100,000, give me $30,000. Okay, who do I sell it to? You know what I mean? Like, who do I take that to? So
absolutely. Now, how much capital and inventory did you have to start back when you started the store? And 13 years later, how much would you suggest to have now if you're opening a store?
So we started with about, I think, about 45K. I thought I could do it on a little bit less. I asked for a little bit more just in case. So somewhere around 40 or 50K. It's been years, so my memory's a little hazy. The dollar in 2011 is not worth what the dollar is in 2024. So, like, if you want to start off, like, at this level, not starting at the ground level, it's got to be like 100K. It's one of those things you don't realize how quickly stuff adds up. Even if you, like, when we started and even now, you know, we'll take advantage of places going out of business. So, like, for instance, this glass case, we didn't buy it brand new. We got it from a place. And yeah, you can kind of maximize your value that way. But even then, everything adds up. You think, okay, I need a POS. Okay, I need a label printer. Oh, okay, I need this. Okay, I need flooring, you know. The flooring in this part alone, and this is 7 or 8 years ago, cost like $6,000-7,000. And that was a sweetheart deal from a place that was in here. So it's one of those things where it all adds up.
All right. Now, next question. with games going digital, if you had to guess, will it hurt, help, or have no effect on retro game stores?
I don't think it really has a ton of effect on retro game stores. It is something to be worrisome of new stuff, but after talking to a lot of people and dealing with a lot of people, I really think that people still like, for the most part, physical things, just like they always like places to go. You know, during like COVID and stuff like that, it's like the entire society was getting you to a point where it's like you never have to leave your house. You press a button and something just appears, right? And that's great, and you have all your entertainment. But people have shown that they still like to go to things, they like to do stuff, they like to physically own stuff. So will it have some sort of effect? Yes. Does it have effect on older stuff in retro games? No. In fact, I've noticed that as newer games are coming out and people are getting more and more upset with the ridiculous monetization of games and, you know, all that kind of stuff, they go back and they go, wait, you know what was really cool and didn't charge me $4.99 every time I wanted to upgrade a level? PS2, right?
Yeah.
And they go back and they think that I bought the game and I owned it and it was done.
Yeah, my opinion, I was just about to say, I think at the beginning it might hurt it a little, and overall later, when people regret not having physical copies down the road, it's going to help it, because people are going to really come driving back.
Yeah, and I just think that video games are a lot different than, you know, stuff like music and movies. Music and movies, for the most part, is like a watch it one time kind of thing. Yeah, we all have our favorite movies we watch a bunch of times or whatever, but a video game is something that is so much longer and something that I find in general people want to revisit more than just some random movie, for the most part.
Now, since your expansion with the comic book side, how successful has the comic square footage been compared to the video game square footage?
Yeah, so definitely video games are number one. I would be silly to say otherwise. I like having the other stuff in here because I think it brings more people in here.
Yeah.
Someone who might be 80% comics and 20% video games. Yeah, we don't do quite as well on the comics or whatever, but
it gets
they stop in, they go, oh yeah, I also wanted a PS5 controller kind of thing. Yeah. So in terms of, if you're just looking at, and for a guy who's had a business for 13 years, I'm like the least business guy ever. I just kind of go off instincts, and I don't really like the whole like dollars and cents bottom line kind of thing. But if you look at it that way, the video game stuff will always be our number one, but I like having the other stuff to bring people in. Or, you know, you have a group of friends, like 4 or 5 friends, and 3 are super hardcore gamers, and 1 is like kind of a comic person. Well, that gives something for that person to do, so you don't just have a group of friends where like half of them come up and they're in heaven, and half of them are like, I'm super bored, right? A little bit more to do.
Sure. Now, this question, you know, we've all asked you before. You always said you're not going to open another location because obviously you need more people you can trust, and it's a big headache to try to open another location to be able to run all that. But that being said, if your son Ferris gets older and he emphatically wants to get involved in the business and the perfect opportunity arises, would you consider a second complete in-box location?
I would say 99.9% no. I'm very hands-on, and I don't know if I would ever be able to turn that off and just like, if you have 2 places, that means you can't be at 2 places at once, right? It's just common. And I would always be worried, no matter how much I trust the other side, what's going on there. I also really like being a one-location store because I can talk to my employees about everything that's happening. I can let them know exactly what to expect. They can let me know exactly what to expect. If we have someone who we find over the course of time has kind of been abusing returns, like getting a game and beating it in a couple days and returning it, we know, because they can only come here. They can't go between 5,000 different GameStop stores and just buy a game, return it, whatever. I like having that. I would say in that hypothetical, and Ferris is 11, by the way, so who knows, I would more be happy to get him up to my level and then potentially take a step or a whole step back. I would much rather do that.
Gotcha.
Plus, also, the way I'm looking at it right now, the video game market is so ridiculous. We already have a hard enough time keeping the stuff that people want in stock. Yeah. Like, you know, Mario games just sell like that. I can't imagine being like, okay, suddenly we have to double that, and we have to always make sure we have that there. I just can't imagine that right now.
All right. Now, if a section of the store slows down, like Funko's perhaps in the future, do you have your eye on a certain product line that may fill the spot?
I don't really. So, like I said, everything is always malleable. So, like, for instance, our comic section was smaller and ended up getting bigger. If that gets, you know, a little bit less popular and anime toys get a little bit bigger, we can always ebb and flow it like that. That doesn't bother me. I don't have anything particular. I've had a lot of friends say you should carry like PC parts and like even potentially like pre-built PC stuff. I'm not super good at that stuff, so I don't know about that. That would definitely be on the list. I think if there was a number one thing, it would not necessarily be repairing stuff for customers, but having like a repair guy here to be able to, for our own purposes, repair and fix stuff. That would be very helpful, especially as something like a PS2 is getting to be the point where it's 25 years old. There's a lot of wear and tear on them. It'd be nice to have someone where we're like, hey, we have these 5 systems. Will you fix them? That's literally your job. That would be very nice.
Gotcha. All right, and then what is your favorite video game and your favorite video game system?
Yeah, I'm going to say the same answer for both. Super Mario RPG for the Super Nintendo. I grew up originally with the original Nintendo, but I think the Super Nintendo is better in every way. If I had to pick my 3 favorite systems, Super Nintendo, PS1, and PS2. PS1 and PS2 because they have just thousands of games. But there's something about the Super Nintendo. It was before it got to 3D and it got a little more complicated and all that. That's the sweet spot. And Mario RPG is just like the funniest game possible. If you guys haven't played it before, they brought out a remake just recently, last year, on the Switch, the Nintendo Switch, and it's just such a great
favorite is Final Fantasy 3, which is Final Fantasy 6.
Yep.
But
also for the Super Nintendo.
The music on there is just way ahead of its time.
Oh, 100%.
Super. All right, everybody loves your free arcade in your store. What is the Grail arcade game that you would love to put in Complete Inbox?
There's a game called Point Blank. It's a shooting game. Kind of just uses like pistols. I think it's made by Namco. It's almost like a shooting gallery kind of thing where they give you a bunch of different quick things to do. Like they'll be like, here's 5 targets, shoot them real quick in 5 seconds. Or they'll have, don't shoot this, shoot this. And there's something about the game that is so fun. And it's also very funny. All the characters are really like animated in a quirky way. It's really enjoyable. Don't worry, I'm not getting that.
All right.
It's after business hours.
I have 2 non-store related questions since it's after business hours.
Absolutely.
The first one, you're a Braves fan, I'm a Nationals fan. We both despise the Phillies. My question is, how awesome will it be when the Braves, as a wild card, eliminate the Phillies like the Phillies did the last couple of years against the Braves when they were the division winner, and keep Harper out at 0 rings after the Nationals got one the second he left?
I would love that so much. I really dislike Philly sports teams. I'm sorry, guys. I know we're here, but Philly fans, when the teams start winning at all, become absolutely obnoxious. I realize there's a lot of bad Braves fans. There's a lot of bad fans for any sports franchise, but being in the epicenter of the Philly sports fandom, is just the worst. So yes, and I really dislike Bryce Harper. He is an amazing ball player. He is, but from day one, even when he was on the Nats, he always annoyed the absolute heck out of me.
All right, and then I was going to ask you if you could tell us one of your songs you're performing tomorrow at the anniversary sale when you're doing your guitar covers, but you put a list up on Facebook now, so I'll ask you, what song are you most excited to play tomorrow?
So there is a version of the Sweater song. It's called the Sonic Sessions. Have you ever heard
It's on the
one?
B-side, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
The spoken word one.
Yeah, I've heard all of them. So
Okay.
I don't know if I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. So there's a version of the Sweater song off the Blue album. I never listened to the deluxe one, but anyway, it's called the Sonic Sessions. It's a spoken word poet who speaks over top of the part where like the 2 guys are talking to each other during the verse part, like, "Hey man, what's going on?" Mm-hmm. He does a spoken word poetry about sweaters. And it's just
that's awesome.
It's just the funniest, best thing possible, and I'm hoping to do that even like 10% of how amazing it is.
Yeah.
And I think they only ever played it one time. It was at a place called the Sonic Sessions in, I think, Seattle, and it was this guy. Do you remember back in the day on infomercials, there was that guy who wore the weird like money suit, and he was always like crazy.
I think I know you're talking about. I don't remember his name. The only name I can remember is Don LaPree.
Yeah. So he looks just like that. He has like long hair, the weird glasses, weird suit, and he's up there and he talks like this, and each of you is a reminder to the earth of what it's capable of, and it just goes on and on like that, and it's just, I'm really excited for that one. I really enjoy it.
So am I. I'm a huge Weezer fan as well. So yeah, I just want to thank you for doing the interview, and again, for everybody, we are giving away $150 in gift cards tomorrow. Spencer's having a lot of sales. And we'll be out there for the drawing first thing in the morning, and the drawing will be at 6 o'clock. All you have to do is be subscribed to Vintage Vultures and comment and like on this video. Thank you, everybody, and have a great night.